Hello, stay with us and see if there's something you recognise. The chances are you might. Crimewatch has now covered over 150 cases, and as a direct result of your calls, 57 people have been arrested, 3 of them on murder charges. Tonight, again, the detectives behind me, along with BBC researchers, will be hoping you can help, and they're waiting for your call.
Because the wheels of justice grind slowly, so far only 12 of those arrested have come to trial. Their sentences range from 18 months to 16 years. No one has been acquitted.
One man charged with murder was arrested within 20 minutes of the programme. Another, sought for fraud, was, if you remember, arrested in front of his television while we were actually on the air. The unfortunate man was watching ITV.
Last month, more than 300 people called about the Sandy McClelland case. His body was found in the boot of his own car in Brighthouse, about 20 miles from his home in Leeds. He was wearing clothes that weren't his, including an army head warmer, which forensic scientists examined with laser equipment. The name Kellett appeared. Detectives now think that more than 200 men with the name Kellett have served in the British Army since 1952. But during our last programme, police received 5 phone calls about one particular man of that name. One of those 5 callers, a woman, rang to say she knows a soldier called Kellett who has been violent in the past and who hates homosexuals. It's known that Sandy McClelland had homosexual connections. Police desperately need to speak to that woman again, and they're hoping she'll call them now. They're on Leeds 435353. That's 0532, the code for Leeds, 435353. Detectives from Leeds are also here in the studio, so please call if you can. You could prevent another murder.
Last month, as always, the Aladdin's Cave produced results. This black cabinet was seen by the son of an 80-year-old woman from northwest London. It had been stolen from his mother 4 years previously. It's now safely back in her living room. These ivories, dredged from a lake in Kent, were identified by a man from Surrey who'd had his house burgled in March 2 years ago. And these pince-nez glasses, shown by John Bly last month, helped the police to clear up a £15,000 theft from a gallery in London.
Now, just before tonight's first reconstruction, we've had some late news in from police hunting for the killer of Lake District hotel owner, Mrs. Bronwyn Nixon. They have just issued this photo of a man they want to interview in connection with her murder. His name is David Wynne Roberts. He's aged 31 and he has a strong Welsh accent. Detectives are on this number now if anyone knows of his whereabouts. It's Penrith 66000. That's 0768, the code for Penrith, 66000.
Our first full case tonight involves a souped-up car that's so distinctive you may remember seeing it. Police think that the men who stole it may be part of a criminal network based in Merseyside whose operations seem to cover much of the northwest of England. The car and the gun, you'll see, are real, and indeed most of the people are the real witnesses who, to seek your help, have agreed to relive their experiences. But disregard the snow that's on the ground. We filmed this month. The events begin in Cheshire at the end of October. For mile after mile around Widnes, there's a seemingly endless industrial landscape, factories and warehouses that look so similar that even locals can lose their way. At 9:30 one morning, Graham Johnson was driving down Ditton Road.
I was lost in the industrial estate, trying to find Davis haulage, so I was driving really slowly, looking about. There didn't seem to be anyone following me. I'd have noticed anybody strange, which is important because of what happened next. I stopped to ask a couple of workmen the way, and I couldn't see anybody else about.
Excuse me, mate, could you tell me where George Davis is, please? You what? George Davis.
A haulage contractors, I believe.
I think it's on that Westlands estate over there.
Well, how do I get there from here, then?
It's just over the bridge over there.
Hey,
you can't!
Hey, bastard! Bastard! On the door! Get you here, bastard!
That was October the 30th in Widnes. 5 weeks later, in the Cheshire village of Alderley Edge, that car turned up again. This is the village high street, and this woman, Mrs. Hall, passed Mass's the jewellers at about 5:05. Everything seemed normal. Five minutes later, elsewhere in the village, that stolen white car was noticed by another woman. She saw it reversing into a row of disused garages. Back at Mass's, the day was ending and the staff were cashing up.
Get it in the back. Go on! Go on! Go on! Where's the money?
In the safe.
Get it all, lads, in the safe. Get down there and you won't get it. There's no bloody phones down here, is there?
No, there isn't.
Outside, no one noticed. Mrs. Hall passed Mass's again at 5:15, but nothing seemed unusual.
We should do something, Stephen.
Went to the car.
Phone the police, there's been a robbery next door.
what?
Please, phone the police.
Right. Just don't worry. Miss Massey's bound to be back soon.
At 5:20, the owner, David Massey, drove up outside his shop.
Shit!
In charge of the investigation is Detective Chief Inspector Lawrence Mellor. This car, which seems to be the key to the whole thing, it's very, very rare, very distinctive.
Yes, there are only 82 cars of this type which have been produced and sold in the United Kingdom, and they have been customised by Aston Martin. There are only 5 white Tickford Capris in the northwest of England.
Now, a lot of Capris, of course, get tarted out by their owners one way or another, but this one is very special, very expensive. It actually says Tickford on the back. What are the other features people might remember?
Various mouldings have been added to the basic body shape. The rear spoiler is larger than normal.
That's this piece.
Yes.
And it's got skirting, of course, all the way around and along the sides as well, hasn't it? It goes very deep and sculpted.
Yes, and a wraparound rear bumper.
And what about the front?
The front is quite distinctive. The grille has been changed and is now very flat, and once again the front bumper has a wraparound effect.
Now, what makes you so convinced, though this car was stolen from Merseyside, that this is a Merseyside operation?
We know that the car was stolen from Widnes and how far it had travelled. We estimate that 2 journeys had been made to Alderley Edge, probably via the M6, M62 and M56, which links Merseyside with Cheshire. We also know that the man with the shotgun spoke with a Liverpool accent, and that on the day Mr Johnson's car was stolen, his credit cards were used at a Macro store in Kirby. And finally, 5 days after the robbery, some of the stolen jewellery boxes were found floating in a reservoir at Huyton.
When the car was stolen, viewers might not have seen it because it all happened very quickly. 2 men were involved. One leapt into the car, and the other couldn't get into the car and ran off. We've got a description of that man. What is it?
2 of the witnesses have described him as being 17 to 18 years of age, 5'6" to 5'8" tall, slim build, with short, dark, brown hair, and he was wearing jeans and a green bomber jacket.
Of course, whether it was the people who stole the car or someone else, we don't know, but this is what they were carrying when they went in to the jeweller's shop. Pretty frightening looking thing. What do we know about it?
It's an Argyle 12-bore single-barrel sawn-off shotgun. We know that a Mrs C. Coquet of Bolton purchased the gun on the 6th of December 1966 from Kay's catalogue. She sold it to a man who at that time was employed by Britannian Castings of Smith Hill, Bolton. So far we've been unable to trace that man, and we would like him to come forward, as we believe he may have vital information as to how the gun came to be in the hands of the robbers.
Frightening, Were they all that dangerous, these robbers?
Extremely dangerous. When the gun was recovered from where it had been hidden near to where the car had been abandoned, it was loaded with one of these. I take the view that people who carry loaded firearms are extremely dangerous.
There is a reward, I know, that's been put up by David Massey, the jeweller. What is the reward, and explain it?
The reward is of up to £4,000, and as you say, a substantial part of that has been provided by Mr. Massey. He, like us, is obviously anxious that these people should be arrested.
Right, there are dangerous people there, and there's a reward. The number to ring, 01811 8055, or if you prefer, you can ring police in Macclesfield direct. The number there, 0625 348 54. That's Macclesfield 34854.
Well, now to our incident desk. Crimes from around the country which your calls might help to solve. Tonight, police need your help with the mystery of a body washed up on a Scottish island. A sex attacker who's struck at least 6 times in 6 months. A Somerset burglary which led to a London auction room. A motorway hitchhiker who raped a young girl. And an armed raid carried out by some well-dressed robbers. Here are Police Constable Helen Phelps and Superintendent David Hatcher.
First on incident desk, that request from police north of the border. On November the 11th last year, a body was washed ashore on the Isle of Tiree, a few miles off the west coast of Scotland and 70 miles to the north of Ireland. For the past 10 weeks, forensic scientists have been trying to identify it, and they've now been able to establish 3 basic facts. It was a woman aged about 60, she was 5 foot 4 inches tall, and her body had been in the water for about 6 months. And there are other clues to her identity. These red patterned socks belonged to the woman, and she was wearing black boots with elasticated sides. We need to know if anybody recognises them or knows where they were made. Most importantly, if you've any idea who the woman might be, please call us.
Next, a break-in at a country house near Taunton in Somerset 7 weeks ago. The house belongs to Sir Edward Ducan, MP for the area. Over £11,000 worth of silver and china was taken, including 8 gold-coloured Easter eggs, like these, by the designer Stuart Devlin. The day after the burglary, December the 12th, some of that property turned up for valuation at Sotheby's in New Bond Street, London, and the woman who bought it in was videoed by the firm's cameras. She was wearing a blue anorak and a top and trousers in vivid pink. She had light brown hair, was about 5 foot 8 inches tall, and aged 28 to 35 years old. If you recognise her or know anything about the burglary, ring us now.
For over a month now, police in Humberside have been hunting a man who raped a 62-year-old woman. And their inquiries have uncovered a series of sex attacks. They've all happened in Cottingham, a village on the outskirts of Hull, which for most of the year is home to thousands of university students. A number of indecent assaults dating back to last summer began when a young man assaulted a woman in Station Yard. Several days later, on September the 10th, he struck again in Willoughby Low Road, and exactly a week after that, he followed a woman into Endyke Lane, asked her directions, and then assaulted her. On the 10th of October, he attacked again outside Castle Hill Hospital, and 12 days later, in Thwaite Street, he stopped a woman by asking for the time and assaulted her. But the most serious attack, the rape, took place at the victim's own home. She'd caught the last bus from Hull to Cottingham on the night of Friday the 6th of December. As she got off at her stop opposite the railway pub on Thwaite Street, a young man approached her.
Got the time? About 11:30.
She was disturbed because 3 weeks before, the same man had done exactly the same thing. So she waited until he'd gone and then walked home. 2 hours later, she was attacked there and raped. Although the woman can't be certain it was the man at the bus stop, we're still anxious to trace him. He was in his 20s, about 5 foot 8 inches tall with short brown hair. If you've any idea who he might be, you can ring us here in absolute confidence.
Next, the hunt for a rapist who struck at the other end of the country. The attack was in Kent, but over the past few days, police inquiries have gone nationwide. It happened just off the A228 at Horling, near Rochester. The area is well known locally because of the unusual bright blue lake, which is part of the cement works. A 14-year-old girl was walking home from school at about 20 to 5 on Wednesday, the 8th of January. As usual, she left Horling railway station and crossed the main road here. It was as she walked along that footpath that a man ran up behind her and raped her. Officers here in the incident room at Rochester have issued this artist's impression of the attacker. He's in his early 20s, about 5'9", with very short hair and a stubbly beard. He was wearing heavy-duty boots, combat trousers, and a light blue jumper with white patches on the shoulders.
69436. Right. OK, much obliged to you.
Now, there were 2 sightings of a man dressed like that on the A228 between 4:30 and 5 p.m. The first was here on the roundabout, where a man was seen trying to thumb a lift. The next was by a motorist. Just as he came up to the roundabout, he had to brake sharply. This stretch of the A228 is a new link between the M2 and the M20, and the man may have been hitching a lift towards one of these motorways. Did you give a lift to a man wearing combat gear on that day, Wednesday, the 8th of January? If you did, or if you have any idea who he might be, please ring us.
Still in Kent, we're looking for some armed robbers with an expensive taste in clothes and getaway cars who made a fruitless visit to Tunbridge Wells last month. Security guards were making a delivery to Barclays Bank in St John's Road when a stolen blue Mercedes drew up. 2 armed men threatened the guards and made off with about £30,000 in cash. But on the way out of town, the robbers panicked because when they abandoned the Mercedes, they left behind their clothes, their guns and all the money. One of them must be a particularly snappy dresser because he left us this silk jacket. It's one of only 6 still in this country, and they're designed by Giorgio Armani and cost nearly £400 each. If you know whose it is or recognise anything else on our incident desk, ring us now.
The number to ring, as always, 01811 8055. That's 01811 8055.
Last September, 4 missing children dominated the headlines. One of them was Leonie Keating, and you may remember we featured the hunt for her killer on our October programme. The bodies of Leonie and 2 other children were found soon after they went missing, and arrests were made. But there was no trace of the 4th child, 6-year-old Barry Lewis from South London. His whereabouts remained a mystery for 3 months, until December, when his body was discovered in a field in Essex. Tonight, police are disclosing new evidence about the case in the hope that you might help catch Barry's killer. Our reconstruction begins in London at the market close to where he lived. Sunday morning, 15th of September, at East Street Market in Walworth. The stalls were busy with shoppers as usual. Just 200 yards away from the end of the market, at the junction with Dawes Street, Barry was staying temporarily at the house of friends, the Leightons, while his mother was waiting for rehousing by the council.
British diplomats in Moscow.
That day, Barry had lunch at the house with Denise Leighton and her children before going out to play with 7-year-old Jackie.
Are you coming out to play?
Yes. Where are you going?
I'm going out in front.
All right then. Ta-ra.
Bye.
Barry and Jackie went down East Street to Trafalgar House in Bronte Close to play with their friend Michelle. Michelle's mother, Mrs. Ford, kept an eye on them as they played outside the flats. Then Michelle and Barry went up to the flat, leaving Jackie playing downstairs.
Get down from there before you break your neck.
Barry decided to go home, and Jackie went with him to the corner of Bronte Close.
All right, I'll see you later. I'm going home now. Bye.
Barry walked on down Blackwood Street towards East Street. What happened next is a mystery. By 4 o'clock on East Street, the market was gone, and Barry too had completely vanished. For 3 months, nothing was heard of him. Then in December, his body was found in a field 25 miles away. 16th of September, the day after Barry disappeared. On the road known as the Crooked Mile, just outside Waltham Abbey in Essex, a man had run out of petrol. He left his car at the entrance to Travers Piggery. Police have now been able to establish that the boy he was carrying was almost certainly Barry Lewis. He seemed sleepy and listless, but he was alive. The nearest garage, Abbey petrol station, was 3 miles down the road.
What's the can take?
About £2 worth.
Right, I'll pay for it now.
Thank you. Run out of petrol?
Yeah, up for a good mile.
Can you give this man in the child a lift back to his car up the Crooked Mile?
I'm sorry, I'm going the other way, Chingford.
There should be somebody who'll take you.
It's okay. I'll get there.
The man walked a few hundred yards up the Crooked Mile and stood hitchhiking at a junction opposite Lee Valley Nurseries. Seeing the boy and the petrol can, a local man on his way home stopped to help.
Can I give you a lift?
Yeah, please.
Where's your car?
It's in the entrance to a farm, just up the road on the right.
Would it be better to put the child on the back seat?
Nah, you'll be all right here.
The child okay?
He's a bit poorly. He didn't sleep well last night.
The driver noticed that the man seemed edgy and reluctant to talk. He drove him up the road past the pink house at Clapgate Lane.
Here it is. Over there.
The driver took them back to Travers Piggery. He remembers that the man's car was a red hatchback similar to a Talbot Horizon. It was in a tatty condition.
They managed now?
Yeah, it's okay. I'll be all right now.
Well, Barry's body was found just a mile away 3 months later. Superintendent Hatfull is leading the hunt for his killer. Perhaps you could take us through on the map where the man and boy went that day on the 16th of September.
Yes, the garage is in the centre of Waltham Abbey and is approximately 3 miles away from where the red car was parked and about 1.5 miles away from where the boy's body was eventually found.
Which was near the pink house in Clapgate Lane?
Yes, on the bridle path.
Right. The car seemed fairly distinctive. Do you think he might be still driving that car?
There's a possibility he may still have it. It was a red hatchback car, most probably a Talbot Horizon, described as about 5 to 7 years of age and in a fairly tatty condition.
Now, we saw the man on the film leave the car, and then the next we saw him was walking into Abbey petrol station. Somebody surely must have seen him on that 3-mile route carrying the boy. He must have looked quite conspicuous. Do you think he walked all the way carrying the boy anyway?
No, not only do I believe that somebody saw him, I'm positive somebody picked them up and gave them a lift. I desperately want to trace that motorist and the car that he himself was using when that happened.
What about the petrol station itself? Do you think there were many people there to see him?
Yes, it was a very busy evening in the petrol station, rush hour. We know that there were several other customers getting petrol, and in particular, there was one man who was in fact asked by the petrol attendant whether he could give the man and the boy a lift back along the Crooked Mile, and he declined because he was on his way to Chingford, which is opposite direction. We also desperately wished to find that man.
Right. Now, that incident was 24 hours after Barry had first disappeared. What do you think happened in those intervening 24 hours?
I'm convinced that Barry was certainly alive for 24 hours after he was kidnapped in the hands of his abductor. It's every likelihood that he was kept in that motor vehicle in the Epping Forest or South Essex or Hertfordshire area, and we want anybody who can remember seeing the unlikely of that man with the small boy and the car to come forward and speak to us.
Once again, can we have your description of the man? We have a video fit.
Yes, he was about 30 to 35 years old, 5 feet 10 inches tall, normal build. He's described as having a lined face or a wrinkled complexion, more than perhaps his years should show.
And he's a local man, is he?
Every indication from the way he spoke and the way he acted seems to show that he knew that area and he had some local knowledge of the places we've mentioned.
Right. Now, it's 4 months since Barry disappeared now. How urgent do you think it is that you find him?
It's vital that we find this man. It was a brutal and callous murder of a small boy by a man who went out looking for his victim, and having found him, I'm positive that he knew what he was going to do to him and how his end would be. I'm absolutely certain we will catch him, not only for what he did to Barry Lewis, but because we have the very real fear that having done this once, he will set out to do it again.
Mr. Hatfield, let's hope that somebody can help. If you can help in any way, please do ring us at Crimewatch on 01 811 8055. Or if you prefer, you can ring police direct at Chingford on 01 529 8666. That's 01 529 8666.
And now, the Crimewatch photo call. See if there's someone you recognise. 4 faces, and to tell us about them, David Hatcher and Helen Phelps.
First on photo call, we need your help with 2 pictures currently taxing Scotland Yard's Serious Crimes branch. These 2 photos were on applications sent to the Passport Office in London, but on further investigation it was found that the writing and the pictures didn't tally. Detectives think the 2 men may have needed new identities to smuggle drugs into the country. If you know them, please ring us.
Police in Nottinghamshire want to interview this man, Alan John Carter, who used to work as director of a mortgage brokers in Bingham and Newark. He disappeared 2 years ago, owing about £40,000 left with him as house deposits by several clients. He's about 40 with curly hair and was last seen with a beard. And he may well have visited the Leeds, Manchester and Bristol areas. If you've seen him, ring us.
Finally, police want to interview this man, Roger Louis DENNHARDT, about a series of armed robberies. One was in Hampshire in April and another in Nottinghamshire just before Christmas, when £300,000 was stolen. He's well built, in his 30s, and has distinctive silvery grey hair, which he's been known to dye. And we think he may still have connections with the East Midlands and the West Country. If you've seen him or any of the other photo call faces, give us a ring.
And the number, if you recognise any of those faces, 01 811 8055. That's 01 811 8055.
Our final reconstruction this month is a most unusual form of crime. 3 people were attacked in their own home by 3 robbers, and the most violent of those robbers was a woman. There's a lot of detail in the reconstruction, and that's because the robbers let slip several clues, and if you watch and listen carefully, you may be able to work out who the robbers are. You'll hear Cockney rhyming slang, and note that 2 of the attackers refer to their accomplice as T. The place is central London, the date Thursday the 19th of September. This is Westbourne Grove, near the junction of Porchester Road in Maida Vale, and these flats are called the Colonnades. At about 9:30 in the evening of Thursday, the 19th of September, Desmond Williams drove his Mercedes here to see his girlfriend. They've been going out together for nearly 3 years. The Colonnades is an exclusive block with its own private security system. Desmond's girlfriend, Tammy, has lived alone here since her marriage broke up. But Desmond is a regular visitor, as is his sister, Karen.
She wants to take that from you.
Yeah, yeah, 2 times last week, didn't I?
wonder if you could help.
Right, shut up! Now get in there. Come on, move it. Right, you lot. On the floor, shut up and no one gets up. Come on, move it! Right, hands behind your backs. Who's got the cuffs?
Here.
Right, now listen, one peep out of you bastard, and one of the girls gets it, OK?
Oh, please, don't shoot. Take what you want. You little slag. Where's the jewellery and the furs?
Got nothing like that.
You lying bitch. Go on, give it
Look,
to her.
cool it. Now, look, come on, move them into the other room. Right, up to Daisy, Tammy. That is your name, isn't it? Tammy. Move out.
Oh, come on, you filthy little bitches.
Move her out.
Gently does it.
Don't worry, babes. We ain't gonna hurt you.
I'll tell you what, mate. You ain't got very nice friends, have you? You were set up. What about the keys to your Merc, eh?
It's not here.
Oh, no? Didn't I see you driving around in your Ford Escort yesterday? Well, that ain't a flash, is it, eh? It's a pity. I could do with a new motor. Well, you got that Peter open yet, or what?
As the gang ransacked the flat, the woman let a nickname slip.
Go on, Teddy, door.
No need to get excited. Where's the safe then, love?
It's in this cupboard, you tricky slut. What are the numbers? Messy, and we'll cut your pretty
Tell
face.
us the numbers then, darling, and you won't get hurt.
Okay, what else you got in here then?
It's 36 to the left, and 12 to the right. 3 to the left. No, sorry. 17 to the left. 3 to the right.
Shit!
She's doing it on purpose.
No, no!
Make her do it.
No, wait, I'll do it. Wait. I can't do with these things on.
Shut up and just do it.
I can't get it. Hang on. OK.
I tell you, my friends wouldn't have set me up like that. We'd have hit you sooner, had you not gone away to Mummy's for the weekend. Right. In the bathroom.
I can't walk.
No? Well, crawl then! Come on, move it, Willis. That is your name, isn't it? Get going.
Who set us up?
Yeah, wouldn't you like to know that?
Who set us up?
Move it, will ya? Come on. In there.
Come on, move it.
OK.
Come on, get...
It's OK. It's OK.
Where's the furs then?
You're in the other bedroom.
That's it.
You got the Tom?
Yeah.
I'll get the coats.
Right, get a case for us.
Over the next 20 minutes, the robbers helped themselves to everything, including Tammy's gold watch.
And these rings, huh?
Oh.
And that.
Oh.
All right, what have you got here then?
No.
Here's the silk socks.
I don't know what you mean. The only cash I've got is in my bag in the front room.
OK, then. Not darling.
You get him in the back room, I get the back.
Oh, move, you mean.
Up and out and in there. Come on, move.
It ain't there.
Oh, come on then, slag. Tell us where you're hidden it.
It's in the cupboard. Not that cupboard. The top cupboard. The top cupboard.
Come on. Move it.
That all there is?
Grab the case and let's go.
Right. Don't move a muscle. If I hear one word out there, one of the girls gets it, OK? Right.
It's 2 weeks later, Wednesday, the 2nd of October, at Brighton Racetrack.
I'll take a little bit of pay.
Anthony Cooley is a bookie who works on the rails and is used to handling punters who have lots of cash. According to his statement, a couple approached him at about 5 o'clock. He says the woman was smartly dressed and in her 30s, and she was with a man often seen at the races known as Charlie. They showed him a Piaget watch and asked if he would like to buy it. The man took it from her wrist and let Mr. Cooley keep it for a day or two to show his wife. That watch was the one stolen 2 weeks before. Maybe in that fortnight you were offered a Piaget. If so, you may hold the key to an armed and violent robbery. This is that Piaget. The fortnight we're talking about is from the 19th of September last year. Inspector Chris Walker is the man who's trying to find the robbers. Explain how you got this watch back.
Well, after it had been presented at Brighton Racecourse, it was subsequently taken to the manufacturers to be valued. And of course, we had circulated it by that time.
It's very rare, and it's quite extraordinary, isn't it? The whole face covered in diamonds, and then these diamonds all the way around the borders, with the name Piaget in the centre.
Yes, it's valued at £5,000, and there are only a limited number of watches of that sort available.
And people needn't necessarily have been offered it by a couple, as we saw in that part of the film.
No, it might well have changed hands quite a few times during that 14-day period.
Now, this has been recovered. There's a very distinctive necklace which hasn't been recovered. Explain that to us.
No, that's valued at approximately £25,000. It's made up of emeralds, sapphires and ruby stones, and could, of course, quite easily have been broken up since the robbery. And I would ask any jeweller, or in fact anyone else who's been offered a necklace of that sort or a watch like this, to contact us.
It was a very frightening reconstruction. How often have you come across crimes where people are attacked in their own homes like that?
Well, my colleagues and myself have never come across a robbery of this sort before. It's a particularly unusual one.
Very frightening, very unusual. Also very rare, of course, to have a woman acting in the way this one was.
Yes, the part she played was particularly unusual. She was very vicious and callous throughout, and subjected to these three people to quite a frightening ordeal.
There's a back view of her. What description do we have of her?
She's a woman aged between 20 and 25 years old. She's 5 foot 2 inches tall. She has rich auburn hair with a centre parting, and she had mousy-coloured roots. She's described as plump but not fat.
She called someone darling. She also used the nickname T, and there was a lot of banter in Cockney rhyming slang, talking about a Peter instead of a safe, silk socks for rocks or jewellery, Tom for jewellery, yes. Some tomfoolery. Are you fooled by this? Do you think this is real? Were these real Cockney rhyming slang users, or was this put on?
Well, of course, it's not uncommon for suspects to put on these sort of words. It could quite easily have been the case that they deliberately intended to use these words to mislead people into thinking that they were Cockneys.
Right. It's a very rare but very frightening, horrible form of crime. If you can help, please do call us. The number here to ring right now, if you can help, 01811 8055. That's 01811 8055. You can, if you prefer, ring Police Direct at Paddington Green Police Station. That's on 01725 4171. 725 4171.
And that and all our other numbers are on CFAX, page 186 if you have that. So is our address, Crimewatch UK, BBC Television Centre, London W12 8QT. Our next Crime Watch is on the last Thursday of next month, but we're back, of course, with the Crime Watch update at 11:30. Of course, the lines here in the studio are open until midnight, and we'll be waiting for your call.
Finally, before we go, remember the picture we showed you earlier of the man police want to talk to about the murder of Bronwyn Nixon, the Lake District hotelier. If anyone knows the whereabouts of this man, David Wynne Roberts, please phone police in Penrith. That's 0768 66 000, 0768 66 000. And as always, bear in mind, crime is rarer than people think. Statistically, a British citizen could live for 500 years before he or she is likely to be robbed once. And ironically, those who fear crime most, the old, are actually safer than the rest of us. So please don't have nightmares, despite what we've shown you tonight. Do sleep well. Good night.
Good night.